He's asking about the Seventh-day Adventist billboards that say forced worship on Sunday is the mark of the beast. And it's interesting you ask that, because I recently wrote, every 7 weeks in our local newspaper, they let me have 500 words. And the last time that I wrote about that very thing, is worshiping on Sunday, the mark of the beast. That's what it was. Forced worship on Sunday is the mark of the beast. And I wrote that, no, that's not the mark of the beast. In fact, that's ridiculous. That's silly. It's not even remotely. That's just something that the Seventh-day Adventists had come up with. And so the mark of the beast is something that is taken during the tribulation by the followers of the Antichrist. They receive a mark in their right hand or in their forehead to show their allegiance to the Antichrist. And worshiping on Sunday is not the mark of the beast, but of course Seventh-day Adventists are real big on that. They think you're really violating the Scripture if you don't worship on the Sabbath, which is Saturday. Well, we don't deny that the Sabbath is Saturday. Sure, the Sabbath is Saturday. The first day of the week is Sunday. Always has been, always will be. Every Jew in the world knows that. So why do Christians not worship on Saturday? Why do Christians worship on Sunday? Well, we don't worship on Sunday because it was the day of rest God ordained in the Ten Commandments. We worship on Sunday because it's the day of Christ's resurrection. We meet 52 times a year to celebrate the resurrection, not just on Easter, but all the other 51 Sundays too. Sunday, we worship, we honor Christ's resurrection on the first day of the week because that's when he rose on the first day of the week. And when he rose on the first day of the week, that's Sunday of resurrection morning, Easter morning. That was on the day of first fruits, the Feast of First Fruits. The Jews in the spring, they have 3 times in the year that they celebrate, and they have these festivals. In the springtime for the spring harvest, in the summer for the summer harvest, and the winter for the late autumn for the autumn harvest. And in the spring is when they have their 3 feasts. The Passover is the very first one. It's on the 14th day of the first month every year, whatever day of the week that may happen to fall on. Immediately following the Feast of Passover, which recognizes Christ's death, there is a 7-day Feast of Unleavened Bread. And that, of course, Christ's body was the unleavened. He was the bread from heaven, and he was unleavened. He did not see corruption in the grave for 3 days. So that's pointing toward his burial, where he proved that he was that he really was dead and he rose again. And then during that week, somewhere in that week, there's going to be a Sunday. It's called the morrow after the Sabbath. Well, the Sabbath is Saturday. The morrow after the Sabbath is Sunday. And on the morrow after the Sabbath, on whatever Sunday of that week-long Feast of Unleavened Bread, that's when the Feast of First Fruits is, when they bring the first fruits of their barley harvest. And they offer it, and they can't eat anything of the new harvest until they brought their barley harvest first fruits to the temple. And so that's a picture of how Christ is the first fruits of the resurrection. And we worship on Sunday not only in honor of his resurrection, but recognizing that we are a part of that resurrection that he is the first fruits of. In the rapture, we're going to be the main harvest. And we worship on the first day of the week, not because it's a day of rest, because it was actually the first day of the Jewish work week. And so we give the first fruits of our labor to Christ. So we're coming together to recognize his resurrection on this day, and we're giving him the first fruits of our labor on this day. Well, what about all of the laws about how we're supposed to worship on the Sabbath? Okay. Those were given, and in Exodus 31, he says that the Sabbath was given to Israel. Are you a Jew? No, I'm not a Jew. Anybody in here Jewish? No, okay. It was given to Israel. And he says it was a sign between God and Israel that they were his peculiar people. In fact, to this day, the Jews say the 3 signs that show that they are God's people is the worship on the Sabbath, the kosher dietary laws, the circumcision, the kosher dietary laws, and the Sabbath. So that was a sign between God and Israel. Now, if it was a sign between God and Israel, it cannot be binding on everybody else. Because a sign to distinguish one group of people from all the rest cannot be something that's everybody's supposed to do. For example, let's say Moses said to the nation, "This is the sign between you and God that you are God's special people." Now, here it is. You are not allowed to worship. You are not allowed to murder anybody. You mean all the rest of us can? Well, no, nobody's supposed to murder anybody. That's a moral law that's binding on all people. So for the Sabbath to be a sign between God and Israel, it can't be a moral law that's binding on all people in all ages everywhere. You see what I mean? Okay. Also, the moral law that's binding on all people in all ages everywhere is written in the hearts of all people everywhere. Savages who have never seen a Bible, never heard of the God of Israel, feel guilty when they steal something from their neighbor's teepee. They feel guilty when they kill their neighbor without a cause. They feel guilty when they've cursed the village elders. You don't need a 10 Commandments to tell you not to do those things. God has made men feel guilty about those things. That's just a part of the natural moral law that's written in all hearts. Okay, so guys, when was the last time you felt guilty out mowing your lawn on a Saturday? Ladies, when have you ever been doing your laundry on a Saturday and it suddenly occurred to you, "Oh no, I'm violating the Sabbath. My heart is smitten with grief just as if I had murdered someone"? Does that ever happen to you? That's not written in the hearts of all men everywhere because it's not a part of the moral law binding on all mankind. Do you see what I mean? So it can't be a sign with Israel if it's binding on all men everywhere and it's not written in people's conscience. And anyway, I hope I didn't over answer your question.